Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen and legends. It's fantastic to see you again. So we are moving on with the next lesson in this series of introduction into spreadsheets. So we're still using the same data that I've introduced you to before on the shorts that you will find on my other platforms. I actually did another video on this on my YouTube channel. So this is still the data that the spreadsheet that we're going to be using. Once I've actually been through all of these sheets that I've got here at the bottom, I will be making this public, this sheet public for you, so you'll be able to see actually how it's always working. So the last video we talked about data types, and I mentioned that there's two primitive data types that we actually work with within spreadsheets, and other tools have lots of different data types, and spreadsheets usually base itself on two. Now there is actually a third. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll know that I've spoken about a third, and we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. And we're going to be doing that off the back of text. So why is text formatting important? Well, when you're using a spreadsheet, in fact, sorry, let me just rewind a little bit before I do that. Let me just explain that I am doing this series, or most of this series, on Google Sheets. Google Sheets, if you're unaware of it, it's a free spreadsheet program. All you need is a Google account to be able to get it working. I will be doing a couple on Excel, Microsoft Excel, because there are a couple of features that I think it's worth showing you that are either easier or exclusive to Microsoft Excel. But the reason I'm doing this one on Google Sheets is because I want to make sure that these skills are accessible to everybody. There are free online versions of Microsoft Excel if you have a Microsoft account, but if you want the proper version, then you're basically paying for it. Google Sheets is free, and as you can see, it does a ton of stuff that you would expect to see on a spreadsheet. So I just wanted to pause, just to remind on that one. I will be using Excel for a couple of videos, but I'm going to stick with Google Sheets for the most of it. So anyway, we're talking about text. Why is text important? So if you're creating a dashboard, if you like, or a series of data insights on a spreadsheet, you want to make it easy to understand, and one of the ways that you can make things easy to understand is by a clever use of text. So I'm going to go through some basic functions and features inside spreadsheet programs that will allow you to actually edit text as we're looking. One of the first things that I want to show you, and this might sound a little bit primitive, or why would I ever use this, but it becomes actually quite important a little bit later, is that an important function when you're looking at text is to understand the length of it. Unfortunately, in spreadsheets and in most other tools, there is actually a function that's called either length or len. So we start off by doing the equal sign and then the letters L-E-N and open up our brackets. And it basically asks you, well, what is the text that you want to find the length of? So I'm going to click on this little cell that I have up here, C2, that says the words "Welcome to the Spreadsheet course." I click on that, close off my brackets, and it tells me, fantastic, welcome to this short spreadsheet course with an exclamation mark and the spaces in between each of the letters. That's 44 characters long. All right, fantastic, brilliant. And again, you might still be sitting there thinking, oh, why would I ever need to know that? This actually becomes quite an important function a little bit later on when you start nesting different functions together. So that's how we're going to start. Another quite common function that you'll find across, again, not just spreadsheets, but other programming languages, is the ability to change the text into either upper or lowercase, or actually there's some other options that you've got there, but we'll stick to that for now. So the function upper equals upper, and then open up brackets. This time I'm going to type it in, but I'm also going to introduce something called an absolute cell reference. Now I'll be doing another video on that a little bit later when I talk about autofilling and stuff like that. But just for now, if you put $signs in before the C and the 2, we'll try that again, C2. What that means is that reference will always be static, and it doesn't matter whether or not I move things around, that will become a static reference. So again, later video showing on that. It doesn't do anything different as far as this particular function is concerned. But if we were to move this cell or the output around somewhere, then having an absolute or a static cell reference can make a bit of a difference. So that's what the dollar signs are. Don't worry too much about it right now. As I said, later video. But for now, all this is doing is that it's still looking at C2. You can see the little orange line around our around our cell C2, and it's orange inside the text, inside the cell, and also in the formula bar as well, just to say, yes, that's what we're referring to. So I hit on that, and there we go. It's taken the same text, and it's converted it all into uppercase for us. So fantastic. Maybe unsurprisingly, you could do exactly the same with lower. So if I do lower C2, there we go. It's taken that for, taken the same text, which obviously had a capital W, capital S in spreadsheets, capital C, and it's put it all into lowercase. Now, it's actually done an auto, suggested autofill for me. Now, I was going to do another video on that, but I'll sort of like mention it. Is that something that spreadsheets can do is that they learn quite quickly on patterns. And sometimes it says, oh, wait a minute, I see what you're trying to do. Let me see if I can help you with that. Now, in this case, it's actually wrong. This isn't what I want it to do, so I'm just going to click on the little X there and move on that. But again, later video, we'll be talking about how spreadsheets, built-in tools in spreadsheets, can actually do some of the work for you. So anyway, we've got the length, 44 characters long, including spaces and punctuation. But we have uppercase, we have lowercase. We can actually look at different sections of that text as well. So but there are a number of different functions. We're going to look at left, we're going to look at right, and we're going to look at mid. So we'll have a look at that one first of all. The left function, left, press equals left and open up the brackets. This is going to return what they call as a substring. It's basically part of the string that we're going to be referring to. I'm going to open up the brackets, and you see it's asking for two arguments. What's the string that I want? So I'll again click on C2, let's do that. And you then put in a comma to say that we want to move on to the next parameter, the next argument of our function, and it asks us for the number of characters that we're actually working for. So I'm just going to choose 7 and close off the brackets. And that has returned the word welcome. So if you have a look at the word welcome, W-E-L-C-O-M-E, that's 7 characters long. So what this left function has done is that it's pointed to this string, welcome to the short spreadsheets course, and it's just returned the 7 characters starting from the very left-hand side. You could do the same for right as well if you want. You've got equals right, and we'll do the same thing again. We'll have a look at this string, and we'll just return the 7 characters from the right-hand side. And this is returned maybe less useful for us, the last few letters of course, and an exclamation mark as well. And you might be sitting there thinking, 1, 2, 3, 4, wait a minute, there's only 5 characters there. What's going on, Chris? There's something something wrong here, surely. I'm going to come back onto that just a little bit later. So we can also look at mid. So let's just say we want to take something out of the middle of our string, whatever it is that we're going to do. So I've got the mid function equals mid, open up the brackets. What's the string we're looking at? That's going to be C2 again. And it then wants to know, this time we've got 2 additional arguments to add in. Where are we starting, and how long do we want the length of our substring to be? So I'm going to start at position number 23, and I'm going to return 12 characters starting from position 23. Close off the brackets, and that's the word spreadsheets. Now, you can believe me if you want, or you can count it yourself, but 23 basically starts at the S in spreadsheets, and then spreadsheets, of course, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 characters long. So that's why we... So, anyway, back onto this whole right thing to say that, wait a minute, we've got URSE exclamation mark. That's only 5 characters. What's going on there? Well, actually, it has returned 7 characters, and I'm going to prove it to you right now. But because even though I suggested that you would count spreadsheets 12 characters long. I didn't ask you to count the whole thing, but we just accepted that actually the length of that string is 44 characters long. There is a vital tool when working with text called trim, and when you're transforming data, this is just one of those things that's accepted, that you should always try and trim text data down if you need to. And all this does is just removes any space characters at the beginning or the end of our text. So if I go for trim now, and I look at C2 and I return that. Now it looks exactly the same. Welcome to the short spreadsheets course. Welcome to the short spreadsheet course. That's the same text, isn't it? But if I then go and perform that length function again on the trimmed version, it now tells me actually I've only got 42. So what's happened with that? Well, okay, actually, welcome to the short spreadsheets course. There's 2 spaces at the end of short spreadsheets course. So when it's counted 44, it's actually 42 characters up until the exclamation mark plus 2 spaces at the end. So by trimming that, we've now actually got rid of those 2 little spaces at the end. And just to prove how this works now, if I was to go and do that exact same function again, where are we? The right one, where we're looking at C2 and 7 characters. Now that we've actually trimmed it down, so this goes to C10. Oops, C10. It's now returning 7 characters, CORSE, 6 characters plus the exclamation mark for 7. So trim, vitally important for when you're looking at data transformation. Next thing we're going to look at is actually how to search for particular strings within a spreadsheet. So, you know, this could involve doing things like if you wanted to find a particular letter or even a word or a phrase within a larger text, you could do this. So the find function is actually very useful. That's what we're going to be using. It's very useful because it has a number of different arguments or different things that we can sort of select within them. So, and it's very nestable. You can nest other functions inside it as well, as we're about to see. So let's just say that I wanted to find the letter W within the text that I've got above. So I'm gonna in double quotes, I'm going to say I want to find a capital W. That's what I'm looking for. So I have to wrap it in double quotations to let it know that it's a string, it's a piece of text that I am looking for. And then I hit comma and it moves over to the text to search. Well, that's going to be up in that C2 cell again. And then it's also asking me where do I want to start searching for it. So I'm not going to do that just yet, but you'll notice that it's in square brackets, but within the argument itself. And what that means is that that's an optional argument. You don't actually have to do this within the function itself. This is in square brackets. They're things that you can add on to your function, but you don't have to. They're just optional. So I'm going to leave it out for this one. And by using find W, it's telling me that at character number 1, space number 1, within the welcome to the short spreadsheets course is where we will find a capital W. Let's say that I wanted to find a capital S. I could do the same thing again. Find. I'm going to look for S in that same C2 cell. And there we go. But the first S that it says is in character number 23. And you look at that and you think, wait a minute, why is that correct? Because actually I'm looking for a capital S and I've got to go all the way to the word spreadsheets before I find a capital S. It ignores the S at the end of the word this. It ignores the S at the beginning of the word short, because it's a lowercase s, not capital. So the first capital S it's found is in 23, space number 23. So what if that doesn't matter? What if actually I would prefer to find either case, whether it's a lowercase or a capital? What if I just want to find an S or an S? Now there's actually a couple of different ways that you can do this, but we can use one of the functions that we've already used above to help in this. So what I'm going to do as an option, please let me know in the comments below if you think that you would prefer a different way of approaching this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find the capital S again, But instead of looking at that, well, in fact, if I say the text to search, that's what we're going to do. We know that it's in line 23. But if I wrap C2 in that upper function that I showed you earlier, what I'm doing here, just before I enter, just have a think about it, I am converting this text in C2 to uppercase, capital letters, same as what I did before, and now I'm only searching for a capital S. So if you think about it, all that's going to do is that's just going to return a capital version of this text, and it's going to find the first capital S. So in this case, when I look at that, it's actually number 15. Count them along, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 is the space where the S at the end of the word this belongs. So but that's one way. There's a couple of different approaches to that, but that's quite a common way where you would convert it into uppercase and then just look for the uppercase version, the capital version of it as well. So you might be sitting there thinking, well, okay, finding individual letters is not necessarily something I can imagine myself doing. Well, this will actually just apply for words or phrases. If you were looking for an actual word or a series of words, this will work as well. So if I actually type the word this to search for in C2, then there we go. It tells me that the word this starts at character 12. Space number 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the space, 9, 10, 11 for the space, and that T at this works well. Let me just show you something additional that works there. If I put a space at the end, it still gives me 12 because there is a space at the end of the word this. But if I was to then go on and say capital S for short, it tells me, wait a minute, we can't find this. We can't find this space capital S. That does not exist within that string. So I'm going to cover error handling a little bit more detail on a later video, but just to sort of bring us back to what we're looking at, the find function can be used for individual letters, characters, even numbers, or entire words or even phrases within a chunk of text as well. And then the final thing, final two things to show you is that, maybe you've got a big chunk of text that you don't want to search for all of it. You don't want to actually look all of it for a particular thing. Maybe you know what the first chunk of the text says. You're not particularly interested in what the first chunk of the text actually says. So you only want to use your find function from a particular point. So I'm going to get a little bit complicated here, but let's see if you can work it out and break it down. So I'm going to use that find function again, and we're looking for a capital S. Now, I'm actually going to be looking for S, whether it's capital or lowercase. So I'm going to do that upper trick as well. So that's going to be in C2. So I'm converting that text into uppercase, and I'm looking for any S now. So whether it was originally lowercase or uppercase, that's where it's going to return. But if I were to find it from halfway through, if I were to start at a particular point of the string of the actual text itself, I could add it up and work out what halfway is and then put that in as a number. So if I know that it's 42, for example, then maybe I could just say, well, start from 21. Let's do that. But what if you don't know, actually, where the halfway point is? What if you've got a big piece of text and actually it's massive? You would have to go and find the length first and then actually take that into account. And what if it changes? What if it adjusts? Then you need to go and update your function as well. So we're now going to include the len function that I showed you earlier. I told you it was useful. The len function of C2, and we're going to divide the results by 2. So what that's doing is that it's looking for either a lowercase or an uppercase s in that string. Welcome to the Short Spreadsheets course. And it is starting from halfway of the length of that sheet. So there we go. It's telling me that the first S we can find is at 23. It's ignored the S at the end of the word this. It's ignored the S at the beginning of short, not because it's lowercase. And in fact, there we go. That's my proof. If I change that to lowercase, it still says actually you can't do this because we're looking at uppercase here. So let's change this to lower instead, just to sort of fiddle about with it a little bit. And there we go. We still get the same results. So it's literally from halfway by taking the length of the string, dividing that by 2, and it's finding the first S. Quite similarly, going to find any of the text that exists after the word spreadsheets. So what we're actually going to do this time is we're not going to identify where within the string the word spreadsheets actually exists. What I want to do is to return all of the text that appears after the word spreadsheets. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. I'm going to use the find function first to find the word spreadsheets in C2. Okay, so we know that, I spelled that correctly, yes, the word spreadsheet starts from position number 23. Now then, what if I wanted to return all of the text that started from that word spreadsheet? So basically what I'm saying is I want to return all of the text that starts from position 23. So you might remember from above that actually you can use the write function to actually return all of the text that starts from a particular position, starting from the right. So what we're going to do is that I'm going to take the right of C2, but I want it to be the length of C2, stay with me, subtracted by where we have found spreadsheets. So let me just sort of break this down a little bit. So we're finding the length of C2, this text here, looking for the word spreadsheets, which is returning the number 23. So what I'm basically saying is that I want to return everything from the right-hand side of this text, where the length of it is subtracted by where spreadsheet starts. So if I actually hit enter here, it doesn't look quite right. It says spreadsheet course, and the reason being is because it actually counts 1 from the final character, in this case the exclamation mark. So there's a couple of different ways that you can approach this, but actually quite commonly, and I'll be talking about off by 1 errors at another course, but quite commonly you could just add 1 to the result. And there we go. That's returned all of the text from this string starting from the word spreadsheets. So that's that. So this gets a little bit complicated. I'd invite you to have a bit of a play about with how these work. Again, this does work on Microsoft Excel as it does on Google Sheets and in fact other spreadsheet tools, that when you start punching in the functions, it will help you along. And what I've tried to do is show you what this how you can actually do such a thing. So there we go. I'm going to move on to some other text transformations that actually don't require functions within Excel. These are actually just built-in features within your Google Sheets or your Excel tools. So I'm going to change the text up. We're going to go with just a very basic text that says "Hello World," and what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep that text there. I'm not going to change that text at all, but I'm going to reference it, and I'm going to reference it by using that absolute reference, that static reference that I mentioned before. So I'm going to click on equals, and I'm going to just click into C21. Okay, so brilliant, that's referenced, but I want it static. So a nice little shortcut for you is that if you want to change a reference to an absolute or static reference, you can highlight the actual reference within the function bar itself and hit F4. And when you hit F4, it puts those little dollar signs in front of it, and that proves that it's a static reference. Now then, let me just pause for a minute and tell you why these static references are important. Now that I've got the static reference, I can autofill down. Which means I can grab this little dot in the corner of my little cell. When I hover over it, my cursor points to like a cross rather than the actual pointer itself. And now I can drag this down to this cell, and C21 has come all the way with it. Well, what would happen if I didn't have static references? So I'm going to cycle through F4, I see the same thing. But if I actually drag it down this time, it still results in Hello World, and you think, oh, wait a minute, that's actually still working, isn't it? Well, actually, no, it's not, because what it's doing is that it's referencing the cell above it every single time. So if I was going to go and change Hello World in C25, or C24, I would say, to, let's just say, Hello You. that's going to change the one below it, because that cell itself is now only pointing to the cell above it, because when I auto-filled it down, the reference came with it. It's not an absolute reference. So that's what static references and absolute references do. We'll be refreshing back over this a few times. But that's one of the main reasons why they're there, is that if you wanted to move some functions around or move some data around your spreadsheet, but you wanted the reference to stay the same, but that's when you would use a static reference. Appreciate that. If you're new to this might be a little bit confusing. Don't worry, I will come back to it at another point, but that's just one reason why static reference may be useful. If I check every single one of these cells now, it's C21 is what it's pointing to. If I was to change this by adding maybe a couple of exclamation marks, that will be reflected in every single cell below it, because the reference has been absolute. So back to transformation of data. So there's a couple of different things, and this might be familiar to you. You've probably done it in things like Word or in other tools. Maybe you want to make things bold, well, it's just quite simply, but there's a bold button right at the top of your toolbar. You can also go into format and then text and choose bold there if you wish. That works. You can do the same for italics. You can either go into the menu, you can just click the little I, or you could hold down Control, but for a shortcut, and press B and I if you wanted bold and italics. Or we've got our underlined here. Now, underlined isn't actually included in my toolbar, but I will find it up here in the format text underline menu. So there we go. And then another one is just strike through, which is basically just puts a line through it. So I use this quite often if I'm trying to highlight changes and errors that I've put into my document or documentation. So lots of different transformations that you can make to your text. It doesn't actually change the value of the text itself, just changes how it appears. And if you remember, this is quite similar to how dates work and other numerical formats work. Have a look over my previous video where I spoke about that in a little bit more detail. The reference is the same. The value is still exactly the same. It's just how it appears has changed. Similarly to how you align something, if I was to type the word hello jello, let's try that, hello world in here, by default, Excel does this, Google Sheets does this, I'm sure other spreadsheet tools do this, it will align text to the left-hand side. But maybe you don't want it on the left-hand side. So let's do a bit of reference again. Yes, I'll do C28, and then I'll do my little F4 trick to make that a static reference. And then I can drag that down here. To actually change the alignment, again, you'll find it within the toolbar usually, but there's a horizontal align here. I can click on this little arrow and choose to right align that one or center align this one. And again, it doesn't change the value. It doesn't do anything. It just changes how it appears in the cell. Almost done. So some of the things that you can do with text. Well, what if your text is too long for your cell? And what I've got here is a sentence: the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, then jumped it again, then again and again. And what you can see is that the text is just outside of the cell. It's actually moved into column E with the text. If I actually click on column D and column E for this text, you'll see there's nothing appears in the toolbar. There's no value in column D or column E. It all comes from column C. It's just gone past the edge of column C into those two columns. Now, this can be a little bit confusing for people when they're using spreadsheets, where you can see actually how text can actually jump across into different sort of columns. You could end up getting references wrong, for example, if you're trying to refer to text within a cell. So there's a couple of different options that we can do to fix this. I'm just going to make this reference here, and I'm going to make that static again. I'm going to autofill that down, so I'm ruining the same text. So the two options we've got, commonly you can wrap the text. So in an option that we have in the toolbar here, and you'll find something similar within Excel, it gives us the option for text wrapping. So I'm going to click on this option, and I'm going to wrap the text, which is the middle option. And what that does is that when it reaches the end of the column, it then moves into a new line. So it's made the row actually a little bit bigger in order to accommodate the new text, but all of the text is now clearly within cell C33. And we can see that. Or maybe you don't want that. Maybe actually you don't want to see the lines jumping bigger because that's going to mess up with other visual elements of your spreadsheet. Well, you can choose to clip it. Now, there's actually two different ways that you can clip text within a spreadsheet. if I was to just add a space into the cell next to it, then according to the system now, there is actually a value inside D34. It's an empty value, it's a space, and that sort of like clips it. It means that there's a value in D34, so it stops it going from there. Or maybe you don't want to do that, and it's probably not actually a good idea. So I'm going to get rid of the space, and you can see that the text goes over again. Back into my wrapped options, there is a clip option just here, and that does exactly the same thing. No value in D34, there's nothing there. It's just clipped the text at the end of column C. And if actually I make column C a little bit bigger, you can see that the text sort of like appears again. Here we go. The final ones. So this is another new piece of information. I mentioned on the latest short that you'll find on Facebook or Instagram, where I was talking about Boolean values. And a Boolean value is basically true or false. Now, I will be coming back onto this because Boolean values become really, really important when it comes to conditions. And there are a lot of other functions that I'm going to be showing you later within date and time functions, and also common functions, and also lookups, where Boolean results, Boolean values become really, really important to dictating as to how the spreadsheet or the value inside a particular cell or a row or a column is going to behave. So just to introduce it for now, let me just show you that we've got two values here, the word hello with a capital H and the word hello in all capitals that we've got there. Now, if I wanted to compare those two together, if I were to say, well, are they the same? I'm going to just put the word equals, and I'm going to click on C37, the word hello, and then I'm going to say equals again, and then click on C38. C37 and C38. Now, Google Sheets has actually said that these two match, that these two values actually match themselves. And you think, well, this is a little bit weird because we had this whole uppercase, lowercase thing earlier. Now, when you're actually doing a string check, just a very basic string check between two strings, it doesn't actually check capital letters. Only if you were going to do something like a search or a find and be specific about what it was going to find, or if you started bringing in those upper and lowercase sort of functions as well, would that start to become a little bit important. But if you're just doing a straight check between two pieces of text, it ignores capital letters. It ignores lowercase letters. Is there an H, an E, an L, an L, and an O in that order? Yes, there is. So we're going to say that it's true. And I can prove this, actually, because if I was to go and compare the value of D37 to the text, capital H, lowercase e, capital L, lowercase l, capital O, do it that way, it would still say that it was true. It just ignores it completely. When you're comparing two strings together, it just doesn't care whether or not there's capitals or lowercase. You might be thinking, well, maybe it's just going to return true all the time, Chris, because I don't believe that you're telling me the truth here. So actually, let me just do a bit of a testing check. I'm going to check C38 against the word hi, because hi and hello means the same thing, right? In fact, let me take up the exclamation mark just to make sure this is a fair text. Well, this says false. Hi and hello, it doesn't matter whether there's capital or lowercase. Hi and hello are different words. So therefore, it is now returning false. I can also prove that it's actually checking the characters H, E, L, L, and O and nothing else, because I could do another quick search for C38 against the word hello, but I've got to add loads of spaces to it that way. And oh, there was a problem with the formula because I didn't put I put brackets at the end for some reason. I don't know why. And that's also returning false. That's saying that, wait a minute, Hello is not the same as Hello and a bunch of spaces. So it's saying false. And again, just as a final piece of proof here for you, if I'm going to take that value, so in D37, sorry, C37 is what I want. C37, which is that word hello written properly, and I'm going to compare it now to the trimmed version of hello with all the spaces. Okay. If I was to do that, it now returns true. It's now ignoring the spaces because of the trimmed function, and it's now saying that the word hello is the same as HELLO with no spaces, because all of these spaces have been ignored because of the trim function. So that actually brings us to an end. I've covered quite a lot, so please feel free to go over this video again. As I said, once I've actually been through all of these sheets, we've only got a few more to go. We've got date time functions, common functions, lookups, arrays. We're going to talk about error handling and how to use tables. I think probably at that point I'm going to share this sheet so that you can download it and have a look at it yourself and start to follow along, I guess, within the videos. I do have a couple of others to show you, like filters and auto sums. Some of that is sort of exclusive to Google Sheets or works differently within Excel. Named ranges is actually a pretty funky little time saver. But that's what we've got left. And then after we've done that, we'll be moving into some slightly more advanced stuff within spreadsheets. Again, some of which I'll be able to do in Google Sheets, the free system. Others of which I'll probably have to move over to Microsoft Excel. Just to show you the additional functionality that is available in a paid for tool. So that's that. I hope you enjoyed the video. I know I've been through quite a lot. Please comment down in if any of it was useful, if any of it was not useful, and we'll use that to sort of direct future videos. But appreciate your time. This has been Duke. We are signing off.